finance guy says that what do we do? Let's see, we will be all right after some time. Okay, that never happens. So this is yet another problem. And therefore, when I work with families, I say that you have to have definite rules for expenditure, eligibilities, rewards. Don't assume these things. And coming back, the basic point is that if it is only business, many of the smaller things which have a cumulative effect will not be addressed. And very often my experience is that the cumulative effect of smaller things affect the prosperity of the business, the life of the business, and the future of the business. This is partly I mentioned not realizing the road transformation. The based family. I found that when the two brothers were father and two brothers, they were working together. They used to travel together to the office. There was a lot of communication. There was no problem. Every day they would exchange notes, operations, market, finance, everything. Over a period of time, the business started growing. One of the brothers had to start traveling more. The other brother had to take care of operations. Then the communication changed. They would talk about some of the production related, market related information, nothing about the stock. Slowly, the quality of communication diminished. And if there is an issue between the department, that started becoming an issue of sore point, and their own patients level started affecting. And at one point, they asked me to say that, to see what the problem is. When I diagnosed, I found that they did not change the communication process. The system was not changed. Earlier, it was free-flowing, daily, face-to-face communication. That did not happen over a period of time. This is why some of the good family businesses now have a mechanism that formal, scheduled meetings are. Every week, Friday evening 5 to 7, you don't travel at all. This time you are what? You should be physically available. If physically not available, you should be available on the phone. So we'll have a formal discussion about some of the things related to business, some of the things related to the family. So it's more like a formal meeting. You have an operations meeting of maybe every week. You have multi-departmental meeting every week in your operations context. But why can't we have it in the family context? You don't do that. So in this family, and in one case, I remember asking them to have video conferencing because they were all in different cities. Okay, so there are technologies are available now to address many of these things. We don't often extend, we don't try to find solutions like that. This is yet another problem, generation gap in thinking. In one family, recently where I interacted, the grandfather is a true gamkin. Till 10 years ago, he never used air conditioning. Not that he cannot afford, he can afford. But he said that there is no need for AC. He would drive a small car. He said that wealth created doesn't mean that I have to spend it, cost your life. The son was also closer to him, but slightly more liberal. And the younger generation is 100% the other extreme. They party every night, come back at 1 o'clock in the morning, sleep till 9 o'clock in the morning, and then all day and all those things are there. It's a huge difference in the generation gap. Okay. And the younger people do not accept what the dad says. The dad thinks that these people are spoiled. One of the problems is that sending children to boarding school. I'm not against boarding school, but often you lose connect with the children when they are sent abroad, or when they go certain boarding school, or when they go abroad at the age of 17, 18, and if they are tuned to another culture different from your own culture, your own tradition, you can get into trouble. So even if they are in the boarding school, even if they go abroad, how do you manage that the tradition, culture kind of things are taken? I think that's also important. And different aspirations of multiple stakeholders, this is yet another part which is adding to complexity. And I found that loose coupling is better in terms of innovating tradition. That's the reason all the trains run smoothly. If you have tight coupling, the compartments would collide. Cross generation keep the loose coupling. Right? don't insist that all people should live on one room with one kitchen with the same sort of tradition. There will be differences, but some of the basic values are shared, and even if you live in different parts, have some freedom for whatever you want to pursue. That's fine. We often notice that the emotional connect comes down as the generation progresses. The first generation is very close. The extent of influence is not the economic part of it, but more the emotional part of it. By the time it becomes third generation and all, they may not be living in the same place, they may be different, living in different places, different backgrounds, different way of upbringing. So if you want the family business to be together, family to be together, you have to have mechanisms to keep the emotions running on. There are multiple ways you can have for Diwali get together, to occasional family get together, to sometimes some of the families have annual camps for the next generation. They spend time together. They go to one place together and spend time together. And so there are multiple ways it is possible. Some of the families have shared communication platforms are there. You use the web technology for that, for sharing, or you have like Facebook, you can have a community, Yahoo group kind of things are possible. You post some of the photos, you post some of the experiences, you interact. So there are multiple ways to build the emotional connect, which is very important. And if you don't do some of these things, what happens is that dilemmas are there, and many of the decision dilemmas are postponed, we don't address them, that becomes deviation leading to distraction. Whereas deviation impacts may be tolerable to intolerable kind of situation. It's often gradual, deviation in behavior is very often gradual. The cumulative effect of adjustment finally bursts into bombshell. And most of the decisions are controllable, most of this can be anticipated if you address them. And I would say that often we don't take the preventive steps, and that's the reason the problems come. Or if there are problems, take it up, face it, and then find solutions. But postponement, you will not find a solution. There are two preventive strategies. One is on the family side, family governance. The second is on the business side. For this, we need to have clear strategy for business as well as family. We often have business strategy, we don't have the family strategy. And strong leadership is required. If there is not enough strong leadership within the family, this is what traditionally what we have is that the community support is there. We have our own either guru or the village head or the family, the extended family head is there who will provide this kind of support leadership. And it's disappearing. We are all nuclear family. Therefore, we have to create some mechanisms. One of the ways some of the families do is to have informal advisory boards. Like the board of directors you can have in the company. Informal. You trust one or two people in the community or well-wishers for the family. You get involved in some of the key decisions. More as advisors, but that itself will be helping in a big way. And develop the resource basket richer and richer as you go along. And it's a conscious effort which is required. And family governance, there are multiple things. If the emotional connect is good, family will be a single entity with happiness and sorrows always shared. And we should have this stewardship value. Essentially, we are saying we are more like the trustees. We have inherited something from our forefathers or parents. We are passing it over to the next generation. I mean, going back to the Ambani case, this is what the Supreme Court said. The government is the trustee of the wealth of the country, not the Ambani brothers. So similarly, we are the trustees of the wealth of the family, and we have a responsibility to preserve it and pass it over to the next generation. You cannot be turned away. I think that kind of an orientation has to be ingrained in the family members. Then there is no problem. The leadership is more like a responsibility. It's not a claim. You are doing it for the sake of the family. It will not be driven by power. It will be driven more like the commitment to strengthen the relationship. It's more like a sacrifice for the family. I mean, speaking that in this area, which has a rich tradition of sacrifice for the family, for the country, I think you can understand it very well that the trusteeship kind of value if you have, there is no problem. Who runs the business, who guides the business is immaterial. And for this, we need to talk and listen. One problem with us Indians per se is that we are interested in talking. We are not interested in listening. Very often we don't listen. We talk, and talk. And before you talk, I am prepared to talk again. Okay. Before you complete your point, I have another point to share. So therefore, very often there is no smooth communication. And before and after some time, this again, my experience, several cases, is that after some time, before you open your mouth, I have decided what I am going to say. Okay. If you say something, I will attack. And if I say something, you will attack. So that's again a big problem. We have to overcome that kind of a situation. That's why sometimes the advisory council, advisory body, even if you have two people from outside, not family, you can facilitate some of it. And I said that in this last week's, where I said that the father to two sons communication is not at all smooth. Finally, I said that we'll have two people from outside, not me. We'll find two people acceptable to the younger people as well as the father, who will be facilitating this meeting for some time, discussion so that the temperature doesn't rise at all, and there is better communication, and that the decisions will be much smoother. And I said that if you practice it for 6 months, then things will fall in place. And family governance, even if we say that communication is required, some of these things have to be practiced, automatically it doesn't happen. Again, parallel is the company. Very often we have meetings, scheduled meetings. We have the structure, organizational structure, even if it is small. We have a finance manager, there is a regular meeting with the finance person or the marketing person or the construction manager. Similarly, if you have a family council where we have all the members who are, let's say we can fix the eligibility and say that 15 or 18 or 20 age. Very often people say that age 18 and above are members of the family council. In some families they say that married daughters are not part of the family council. Daughters-in-laws are part of the family. But that's a decision that the family has to decide who will be part of the family council. And the family council is more like the general body of the shareholders. And they should be briefed on the happenings in the business periodically, and they should be reported, they should be consulted, and also some sort of understanding happens in that process. It's not only about the family business, but also the family's decision about education, about wealth management. Wealth management is a big area where there is a lot of work required in India. Very often we don't plan our wealth management, we put our money in land or something like that, or sometimes in the share market, sometimes here, without that proper planning of the funds for the requirements in now and then. So that's yet another area which is very important. So all these points of discussion will be coming to the family council. And have family meetings scheduled. All the family council members have to meet 4 times a year or 6 times a year. Otherwise, we'll have the meetings, whoever is present, they will attend. And you can have an agenda, you can have written minutes if you feel like, but even if you don't want to go into that extent of formalization, but informally you can do that. But there has to be discipline. What happens is that in one of the families, I remember, I initiated this. When I was there, things were okay. Then after some time, I started enjoying it. They would meet 10 o'clock on Sunday. The initial discussion is about Saturdays or Fridays movie, and then TV programs, maybe football, cricket or something like that. Then in between somebody says that we have to discuss this matter. Yeah, we will discuss, we have enough time. So let's finish this. And then slowly the men will start talking about something, women will start talking about something. There will be no single meeting, it will be 2 meetings parallelly happening. Then it is almost lunchtime. lunch, and then it's time to part. And they say that we have to discuss some of these important things. Somebody who is a champion will say that we have to discuss it. They'll say that, okay, next week we come meeting, we will discuss it then. Anyway, this is not an important thing. If all of us understand it, we have some sort of a commitment towards it, we'll abide by the decision. Okay, so it gets postponed. So the important thing is to have family meetings more regular, more structured, and ensure that everybody has a responsibility. I think that kind of discipline will come, particularly if necessary, if you have one or two advisors also involved in terms of facilitation. This is, in some cases, some of the families have family business forum, which is for the members of the family who are involved in business. Because you don't want to get all the family members involved in this kind of situation. It may be about often it happens informally. The example I mentioned where the two brothers, where they had difference of opinion emerging over a period of time. Because they had a family business forum run by the two brothers, and they were traveling together, face-to-face discussion, informally every day. That did not happen over a period of time, or that started disappearing after a period of time. This is another thing some of the families have is the non-business family forum. Family members who are not involved in business, particularly ladies, to build the bonding among the ladies. If you have 2 or 3 daughters-in-law, or people who are not involved in business, and to ensure that the connect is very good, the relationship is smooth, you can have a forum, and sometimes they find out common activities, especially if they don't live under the same roof, have some regular scheduled meetings or going out, picnic, and things like that. And then many families are interested in writing family constitution these days. Constitution per se is not a solution. Many people have asked me to write constitution, and there are extreme cases of somebody saying that you tell me the fee and you write the constitution and give it to me. Okay, as if it is some prescription you can give and they can practice. And the experience, global experience is that only 50% of the people with the written constitution have been able to successfully follow it. So writing a constitution is not the important thing. Living the constitution, practicing it is more important. Again, one example in Kerala, where the two brothers I met, the families I met, we had discussion, we agreed on some of the things, and they said that we will write the constitution. I said that don't write the constitution now. We practice it for 6 months, 1 year, and then we'll see whether there is a need to write the constitution. Sometimes you don't need the written constitution. And now the situation is that they are not able to practice all. So that is yet another problem. So if you cannot practice it, adhere to the principles and follow it, then you get into, again, problem. So family constitution is important. Doesn't mean that writing the constitution is the solution. And I'll just tell you some of the chapters of a constitution, outlines of the constitution. These are some of the typical chapters, but it doesn't mean that these are to be adhered to 100%. They are only dimensions. Family vision and values. This is very important, clearly. And the family council is to build cohesiveness, and code of conduct is very critical. And I find that most of the family problems come because there is no real code of conduct. And how do you enhance the capabilities of family members? You can have a family business board, non-business family forum, which takes care of some of the family-related activities. Some families may have foundation, charity kind of thing. This is extreme. I don't think many of us require the family office kind of thing. But the fundamental principles of family office, which is largely about wealth management, need to be practiced. Wealth management is becoming important, increasingly important. You have to have a family fund which is required to meet families' own expenses. This can be the source for people who are retired, their expenses. If the family common expenses are there, how do you meet them? If there is a medical care required, some family member has an urgent medical expense, especially if he is retired, where is the money going to come from? Maybe a few lakhs of rupees for a, let's say, cardiac surgery. So there are issues like that. There is a family fund which is defined, which is available. And how is the ownership structure? And what is the dividend pattern? And people employed in the business, I would say that it's useful to have separation on the rewards, remuneration, and the dividend income. Instead of saying that whatever you want you can take whenever you want, to some more clarity about. But there are families where it is working on where whatever you want you can take, but it's not very easy to execute. And what will be the criteria for investment in business? Family jobs. Who can get business or jobs in the family? What are the norms for retirement, succession, induction of the new people, compensation, remuneration? See, when I say that there is no need for writing a constitution, my experience is that if you start the process of writing a constitution, we start addressing some of these issues. For instance, very often we don't discuss even the retirement part or succession part or the induction part. If we discuss it, we will see the ramifications of any of the decisions, the implications.